at 5.
How at risk are our kids? It's a question our schools are trying to figure out. Data from the latest youth risk behavior study shows some troubling trends. Valley News Team's Ryan Laughlin sat down with an expert from the Grand Forks School District to dig into what's putting kids in danger today.
This is all self-reported data, so this is right from the students' mouths.
Sarah Shimmick is the Character Education and Prevention Coordinator in Grand Forks. One of her jobs is digging into this. The Youth Risk Behavior Study, or YRBS, tons of data from middle schoolers and high schoolers across the state about what things are putting them in danger. The biggest change?
And it's all again surrounded around technology.
Tech is changing the landscape for kids in almost every way. One example is the steady decrease in cigarettes, but a dramatic increase in e-cigs, but it goes far deeper than that.
A high percentage of our students are on a technological device 3 to 5 hours every day, and it's not homework related.
Shimmick says this is leading to less after-school activities and has wide-reaching impacts.
Data like this that we're seeing where more kids are hurting and in pain and having suicidal ideations.
The whole state of North Dakota reported that 1 in 4 high school kids have felt sad or hopeless for more than 2 weeks. The same showed in Fargo and Grand Forks. More alarming, 16% of high schoolers statewide have seriously considered suicide. In Grand Forks, that number was even higher.
It's just really scary because then they have those feelings of sadness and hopelessness, and then they're self-medicating.
Alcohol, still the #1 drug of choice for high schoolers. Most have tried it, but there's more.
So the age students are choosing to use alcohol for the first time is getting younger.
Grand Forks and Fargo are below the state percentage. Still, more than 10% of kids are drinking before age 13. The goal is to use this data to create programs to better serve students in the state, but the district says it will take more than just that.
If we don't have other community agencies and parents involved, if we don't have that connection with them, none of this is going to work.
From Grand Forks, Ryan Laughlin, Valley News Live.
There is some good news. School districts are using this data to create prevention programs. One example is distracted driving. Data shows most students are texting and driving statewide. However, in Grand Forks, a program aimed at informing students about the dangers of distracted driving has dropped. The Grand Forks School District's number of distracted drivers, less than 40%. There's a ton of data in that survey about things like cyberbullying and what students having body image issues. We attached a link to the survey findings on our website, valleynewslive.com. The gray skies aren't so bad when they come with above average temperatures, right? Hutch, our mild streak is not ending tonight, is it?
No, and it's really been a little difficult for some to enjoy the milder temperatures because it's looked like this outside for the last 3 days. But it's those gray skies that have even blanketed in the warmth overnight, allowing temperatures to be fairly steady. That's going to continue. The cloud deck looks like it's here to stay for most of us as we go through the evening hours. A fog advisory for South Dakota and parts of extreme southwestern Minnesota. A few of us could see some patchy dense fog throughout the valley, but look at those temperatures steady through the evening hours in the low to mid 20s. Andrea, for the last 36 hours, we have been within 4 degrees of 24 degrees. I'll say that again. It's been like stuck on 24 for about 36 hours. We're going to improve on that number starting tomorrow. I'll have details on how warm we get, and we'll talk about our weekend snow chance coming up in a moment.
Okay, thanks, Hutch.
You bet.
A man accused of trying to hit a police officer with his vehicle in Bismarck is expected to appear in a North Dakota court early next week. Prosecutors say 22-year-old Ulysses Villalobos has waived extradition from South Dakota and will face charges in Bismarck. Villalobos is charged with attempted murder and fleeing a peace officer during a probation search. The officer shot Villalobos in the arm. The officer was not hurt. As you may remember, the incident led to a statewide blue alert from police to warn the public about the search. Villalobos is being held at the Minnehaha County Jail in Sioux Falls until he returns to North Dakota. He was arrested last Thursday at a gas station in Brookings.
Because, sir, you do not deserve to walk outside of a prison ever again.
Dr. Larry Nassar walks out of the courtroom after hearing a judge sentence him to 40 to 175 years in jail. Those in the courtroom who are looking for justice, including victims and their families, praised the judge's decision. More than 150 young women have spoken in that Michigan courtroom describing sexual abuse by a former renowned sports doctor. Today, the judge delivered her sentence for Larry Nassar. Kenneth Craig reports.
What Nassar did is effective.
Following day after day of wrenching victim impact statements, it was Larry Nassar's chance to speak.
An acceptable apology to all of you is impossible to write and convey. I will carry your words with me for the rest of my days.
The former sports doctor's plea deal called for a minimum of 25 to 40 years behind bars for sexual assault. But Judge Rosemarie Aquilina, infuriated by a letter from Nassar in which he insisted he was a good doctor, took it much farther.
Sir, I'm giving you 175 years, which is 2,100 months. I've just signed your death warrant.
Some of Nassar's accusers spoke after the sentencing.
We have persisted to speak our truth. And it just means so much to know that people are finally listening.
Nassar admitted to molesting 7 women under the camouflage of medical treatments, including Rachel Denhollander, whose complaint triggered Nassar's downfall.
Larry sought out and took pleasure in little girls and women being sexually injured and violated because he liked it.
In all, 156 women calling themselves an army described Nassar's abuse, their anger at his employers, and their long struggles to recover.
But I also want to hear you tell me that you regret all the hurt you caused. Thank you.
On top of the 60 years he's serving for child pornography, the sexual assault sentence makes certain Nassar will spend the rest of his life behind bars. Kenneth Craig, CBS News, New York.
Again, the judge's sentence amounts to 40 to 175 years in prison. The flood outlook for the spring looks positive. The National Weather Service announced its first flood outlook of the season this week and says the threat of flooding along the Red River is very low because of persistent dry conditions in the Red River Basin. There's also good news for the Devil's Lake Basin in northeastern North Dakota. The outlook says there's only a 5% chance that Devil's Lake will reach an elevation of 1,451 feet. The record crest was set in June 2011 at over 1,454 feet. A small town in shock. The suspect in Tuesday's deadly school shooting in Benton, Kentucky, is expected to be tried as an adult. He's being charged with 2 counts of murder. Authorities still have not identified him or a motive. 2 students were killed in the rampage. 15-year-old Bailey Holt died at the scene, and 15-year-old Preston Cope died at the hospital. 14 others were shot, 4 others hurt as they tried to escape. Several victims remain hospitalized. All are expected to survive. Today, the school was closed. Classes will resume tomorrow in the elementary and middle schools, but the high school will remain closed. There are some major security